Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from today. We want to thank you for joining this TechStrong learning experience, and we're joined here with StackGen. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started, though. I do want to let everyone know this session is going to be recorded. It will be available on demand. We are also going to send you a link to the recording once we conclude. We've also got some polls that are going to be coming up throughout the presentation, so make sure you stick around. We do want to hear your responses on that. We like to engage with our audience, so let's go ahead and make sure that you are around for those polls. We've also got a demonstration, a little video that we want you to watch on that as well. We hope you enjoy that. We've also got some handouts in the resource section on the left side of your screen. So make sure you click through those, download those, check those out at any time throughout the presentation. We have those available for you. We've also got the Q&A section on the right side of your screen. Any questions that you guys want to ask, make sure that you put those into the Q&A section. We'll take a look at those throughout the presentation. We'll most likely answer those at the end. And any questions that we're not able to get to through today's session, we want to make sure we have those so we can reach out to you once the program's over. And don't wait until the end to put your questions in there. We want to make sure we've got them ready to go. We've also got the chat, which is right around the same area of the Q&A on the right side of your screen. Make sure that you are telling us your experiences, your comments, any understanding that you have, your expectations. Again, we want to engage with you. We encourage you to chat with us. At the very bare minimum, tell us where you're tuning in from today. We do want to hear from you. It is great that we are all here from all around the world and we're all connecting. Let's go ahead and kick off today's topic: how to scale Terraform with AI agents for 10x developer velocity. Today, we're joined with Dharani Vijayakumar, Principal Product Manager at StackGen, and Sanjeev Sharma, Founder and Principal at Data Capital Labs. Dharani, Sanjeev, thank you for joining us today. Go ahead and take it away from here.
Thank you, Jared. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here and talk about some of the capabilities and topics around AI agents for scaling Terraform. Yeah. And quick introduction, myself, I'm Dharani, Principal Product Manager here at StackGen. I've been with the company for almost the last year. And prior to StackGen, I was the product manager at HashiCorp Cloud Platform. I led logging across products Terraform, Vault, and Boundary. And prior to HashiCorp, I was the product manager for AWS Lambda. Specifically, I led networking for AWS Lambda. I'm joined here by Sanjeev Sharma, who's a special guest here. And Sanjeev is a well-known leader in the DevOps space. And Sanjeev, we would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Dharani, and thanks to you and StackGen for having me. It's a very exciting topic. Well, to introduce myself, Sanjeev Sharma, I am founder and principal consultant at StackGen at Data Capital Labs, and it's an independent consulting organization. We focus on helping our clients scale AI adoption from POCs and pilots to enterprise scale. I've been doing this for a few months now. Prior to this, I spent the last almost 3 years at Dell Technologies, where I was Senior Vice President of Developer and Engineering Platforms. Essentially built the developer platform for internal use for all software developers at Dell. And Terraform was a big part of what we did there, along with other technologies, as it was an infrastructure company. Prior to that, I worked at Truist Financial. For those of you not living on the East Coast, Truist is the 7th largest bank in the US. It was created by the merger of BB&T and SunTrust. And I was there when the merger was happening. I was a part of the merger team. And prior to that, I've been working in technology for more decades than I would like to admit. And was there in the early days of DevOps. And some of the challenges we are going to talk about today, we've been talking about since the 20 right? 2010s. And just excited to be here. In full disclosure, I've known StackGen since the early days of StackGen. I'm actually an advisor to the company, and I've seen their evolution as they've gone through various iterations of the product and technology. And very excited to be here because I truly believe in what StackGen is producing and building, and hopefully we can, we are able to share some of that excitement with all of you attending today. So back to you, Dharani.
Thank you, Sanjeev. We are super thrilled to have you join this discussion, and I'll dive right in here. Yeah. All right. Let's kick off with the topic that we are diving in today, infrastructure as a code. And let's begin with challenges. I know we live in an era of AI. I know we live in the art of the era where anything is possible with AI and whatnot. But still, we got to be customer centric or problem centric in terms of how we apply and what kind of problems we solve, right? So it's very important to understand the challenges to begin with, right? So here is a graphic here, which actually categorizes the the space, overall space, right? Like within the realm of things that platform engineers, as platform engineers, we care about, right? Like there is build, which is all about day zero, building your infrastructure, and there is govern, which comes hand in hand, right? Like you want your infrastructure to be like best in class, and also have baked in organization policies. And then comes the healing part, right? Like once you deploy, so what, right? Like it needs to work for your consumers or developers, right? Like you need the healing part as well. Cannot be an afterthought, right? And then last but not the least, keep optimizing, right? Like again, you want to, what do you call, run your business or enable your business going forward. So there is no stop. There's no getting away from optimizing, right? These are the big four pillars we view the world of DevOps and platform engineering here at StackGen, right? So the graph here shows as platform teams, we are basically we end up looked upon as cost, right? Like operation cost, as you see it here, right? There are different buckets of operation cost across build, govern, and heal and optimize. But the key takeaway is building actually is one of the hardest problems here, and hence the cost is so high, right? And that's a topic that we are picking up here, right? Like infrastructure as a code and how it relates to building, right? So the on the other hand, ops cost is all about people. The first data point I showed. People won't just people by themselves, ourselves, we cannot solve all the problem. We need the tools to actually deploy and build infrastructure. Are we at a point where we have too many tools? Or are we at a point where we are spending less? Not really. The tools are actually only a smaller percentage of the people cost. So that's the secondary data point that we are showing here across the industry. But the third metric, or the third big metric, is even more important. As platform teams, why do we even exist? We exist to actually show business outcome, right? There is always this question of, hey, in the age of AI, am I actually what do you call, as a person or as an operations person or a platform engineer, am I adding too less value for the cost I'm actually consuming, right? That question always bothers me, including me. I used to be in platform teams in the past too, right? But not really. The impact that we make actually is way higher than the cost of people and tools, right? So platform teams like ourselves actually add immense value. This is based on the data that we have gathered here, right? The point or the opportunity at hand is, how do we sort of leverage more and more tools to solve more impacting problems for the business? I think that's the lens at which we at StackGen look at things, and we want to what do you call, take that as a goal and pick up the underlying technology and the best in class tools, and we'll speak more about it in this session. Yeah, that's sort of the idea. Go ahead, Sanjeev. You had something.
Yeah, this is, I saw this chart when I saw this the first time. It was very revealing, right? Because as somebody who is leading a large platform engineering team, as I've led for the last, 6, 7 years that I've been working in, on the practitioner side for large Fortune 50 companies, one doesn't realize what the depth of the expense is, right? We understand the cost, but what is more revealing about is that I don't think this slide has changed much in the decade or so of DevOps and SRE that we've been working with, right? If I go back to the early days of DevOps, right, we had technologies like Chef and Puppet. Ansible was also around, and Ansible is one of the survivors of that cohort. And then Terraform came along later, and then of course, we've got the whole Kubernetes thread, right? Maybe the percentages of allocation of cost across these buckets has changed, but the description of the fact that this is still a largely not fully solved problem and there is a huge opportunity to solve the problem still remains, right? I mean, if I look at when I was working for the bank, right, the lost developer time, the downtime, the SLA penalties due to regulatory compliance, those were where we spent all our energy and time, right? Going, these are problems we need to solve, and that root cause analysis work we had to do every time to go fix it because, the Terraform was misconfigured or there was a network configuration issue, wherever it might have been on the
Yep.
stack.
Yep.
We platform guys always blame the network, I know, but wherever it was, it is still a largely unsolved problem which is solved by humans dealing with large amounts of infrastructure code, right? Prior to infrastructure code, it was even a bigger problem and it was all handcrafted. And, we all had to go log into consoles and try to fix these problems. If you look at it, we still need to do that, right? Because we still
Mhm.
need to go to the command line to figure out what's wrong, go through logs, and then go back and fix our code and do that, go through the whole cycle again. It is a
Yep.
very very revealing chart because it tells you that this is a problem you and I and others. I'm sure the folks in the audience feel free to pop in the chat for folks and talk to us. Do you see this problem? You might not see the same numbers or percentages, but I'm pretty sure you all agree that this is a challenge everybody's facing.
Yep. That's a great segue to our next actual reality, Sanjeev, right? Um, I know we live in the age of AI, and there are tooling that is actually very prevalent among developers who are our consumers, right? Like that's the blue line in the chart here. Yeah. Coding assistants such as Cursor and VS Code, they've done a fantastic job in actually helping developers to increase their velocity, right, from an application coding perspective. But on the other hand, if you look at the red line here, right, for whatever reasons, right, like and it could be right or wrong or whatever reasons, we haven't actually like moved the needle as big as the developer consumer flow here, right? Like in terms of the infrastructure provisioning velocity, right? There's a fundamental bottleneck here, right? And we want to introspect that and provide you with a little bit more open-minded solutions and what should we ideally do, right? Like I don't think any of us here would want the curve to be as it is, right? As it is like right now, right? So we want to solve that problem. That's exactly the exercise we want to go through here. Yep. And hopefully, Sanjeev, like we would answer your questions in a meaningful way by the end of this presentation. Yeah.
Right, Dharani, when you and I, when we talked about this slide, I was laughing because I wrote this book. I had to pull it out and dust it off. I wrote this book. Hopefully, you all can see me. This is the original DevOps for Dummies from 2014. I wrote it right along with
Mhm.
my buddy Bernie Coyne. We were the co-authors, and this was the first DevOps for Dummies out on the market. There've been several iterations since, and I talked about this very topic in this book, that there is a huge the phrase I used, which was I borrowed from somebody, that there is a huge impedance mismatch with the velocity of which developers can go, thanks to DevOps, thanks to Agile, thanks to all the tools we've developed over the years to help developers go faster. And now it is the AI coding assistant, but the infrastructure layer is still slow. And that's what we were trying to solve with DevOps, right? But what this chart shows, that even 10, 12 years into DevOps, it hasn't kept up with the velocity increase, which is going parabolic now, thanks to coding assistants and these SWE agentic coders. StackGen is trying to solve that problem, is working on solving that problem, and as you will see, is being very successful at solving the problem. So I'm very excited to see what this graph will look like in a StackGen assisted world. So on back to you, Dharani. I'm sure everybody's excited to see the demos and hear about what StackGen is cooking up to.
Awesome. Thank you, Sanjeev. So I'm going to be a little bit quick here. I think the slide here. Oops. 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Can you all still see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Just a second. My apologies. I got a technical glitch here. 1 second. Okay, back in action. Yeah, so this slide here quickly illustrates AI can be a solution, definitely, even in the infrastructure space, right? Like we are taking the cue from the coding space on how we go about leveraging AI for the infrastructure space, right? What does it even mean? The key takeaway here is there are two kinds of deployments, right? Like one is greenfield, another is brownfield. What does it mean? Greenfield is new infrastructure, and brownfield is existing infrastructure management. Yeah. The learning from the coding assistant space is AI can actually create higher impact for simpler problems, and that's where the results are seen. Whereas if we fail to do that, we we are not leveraging AI in a meaningful way. Yeah. So the rule of thumb is start small and have big wins in your organization as you scale with AI. Yeah. So no surprises there. We'll try to leverage AI to solve some of the challenges here in terms of infrastructure scaling. I'll go to the next slide here. Um, we want to marry this whole what do you call the opportunity presented by AI and the previous iteration of what we have today in terms of tooling itself, right? Like I know Sanjeev spoke about, hey, 10 years back we had the same problems. What's new now, right? Like here is another sort of a proof point for that, right? Like if you look at systems like Terraform, right? It is excellent, right? It provides a declarative framework to 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 basically get infrastructure which is definitively declared, and that's what you get. Yeah. But the steps in the middle, right, like all the way from initialization, validation, planning, and apply and destroy, right, they all require human in the loop. Yeah. And rightfully so in the previous work. But now with AI being more realistic, right? Like thanks to the whole transformer model breakthrough and LLMs actually doing a lot more higher fidelity tasks, we see an opportunity to inject AI carefully in these individual steps, even in the world of Terraform and specifically to infrastructure provisioning and management. Yeah. So having said that, there are still some gotchas. We'll see more of those in the upcoming slides. But this is the summary of how we sort of like view this at StackGen today. Infuse AI in every step of the way. Don't look at it at an isolated point problem, but it's a systemic thinking that you'll have to do across your organization. All right. So here's a quick rundown on the evolution itself on the AI side, since we are marrying two sides of things here. Since traditional DevOps world and the agentic or AI world, right? Like we also need to understand how AI is evolving, right? Like in the past, we didn't have much of AI to leverage in a practical way within enterprises, right? Like the costs were too high. We were always relying on deterministic machine learning models. But present AI is useful for coding, but the infra is still linear, more so because of high complexity. But we believe the future, in the fullness of time, we'll see a world wherein autonomous infrastructure provisioning will be the way to go, but it wouldn't happen magically. It does need platform teams who are going to be strategic in nature. There's going to be a upcoming slide where Sanjeev is going to talk about how we all evolve on the platform engineering side to actually catch up with AI, right? Like if you go to cities like San Francisco and many other cities, there are cars which are actually autonomous, right? It's if you think about it, like you could ask a question like, hey, if cars can go driverless, why not infrastructure? It's a great question, but the answer is very subtle, right? Like for the cars, it's a single car with a lot of machines behind it, right? But for infrastructure, you're talking about a team problem. There still needs to be a lot of coordination and strategic thinking across teams. So that's important ground reality we got to keep in mind as we scale with AI and as we bring the autonomous infrastructure to reality. Yeah.
I think if I have to spend a couple second, I know we want to be careful on time here, but One of the challenges in the real world when you talk about the high complexity of infrastructure comes from not just the scale part of it. I think the scale part of all the cloud providers have solved. But in a large enterprise like a bank or a healthcare company or any company which has grown over the years organically or inorganically, right, however it might have grown, the complexity comes that the variance of infrastructure in the organization's data centers or clouds is very high. If everything in the data centers was identical, right, then we wouldn't have this level of complexity. We could build the same kind of automation and deploy it everywhere, just like a hyperscaler does, right, in their cloud regions. But that's not true, right? I mean, as a company evolves over time, they buy from one vendor, they buy storage from another vendor, then they buy servers from a third vendor, then they'll, refresh their servers from a fourth vendor, they'll acquire a company which had a totally different stack. And, that's where this complexity will always require humans because, but those humans will be AI assisted will need to be AI assisted, but this complexity is far more in the real world of large enterprises than people realize. It is actually far more on the infrastructure side than it is on the coding side. Those challenges have been solved. So I think this is a very important point to note where StackGen can add a lot of value because it can handle that complexity and variance.
Yep. It's always fascinating when product managers like me, we speak to leaders and executives at different organizations. Like you rightfully said, each workload has its own nuance, and each team has its own best practices, right? Like they would like to carry forward as well, and that's sort of the what do you call important and reality we got to address along the way. It sounded like what do you call? I should right away jump into the future for platform engineers now that you kind of hit the reality sync, Sanjeev, right? Like I'll let you speak through it because you've been a people leader leading larger organizations and people like myself included, right? Like should we be worried or should we be opportunistic or should we jump up in the air and catch up on AI? What are your thoughts? Please do share. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, listen, I mean, the conversations around automation. I remember when I was working at IBM and we were, going and talking to our clients about technologies like Urban Code, right, which was a deployment automation solution back in the day. I'm sure still around and people use it, but it's a great tool and was state of the art at that time. The first question we always got from the platform, what was today we would call them the platform teams. We didn't call them that back then, or the DevOps engineers was, does my job go away? Right? Because is this going to automate me out of a job? And, we know from a fact it didn't happen. Their job got elevated from somebody who was handcrafting, artisanal scripts to do the deployments and manage the infrastructure to automated, deployment, right? Maybe they were, writing at a higher level of abstraction, right, with Terraform, for example, or some form of YAML. And that's what's going to happen, right? The challenge between the platform teams and the development teams has always been what you just alluded to, Dharani. Mm-hmm. They want their own style and their own way of doing things, whereas the platform teams, if they're centralized like I've run in the past, they want standardization. What I think in the future will be, as you talk about this, the strategic architect is, this is an opportunity by leveraging AI for platform teams to no longer become the bottleneck, right? The commonest complaint platform teams get is, I could do this faster myself. That's what the developers always say, right? If I had control over my infrastructure, I could go faster. So I think that's where we are seeing, the evolution. And, I know with agents and stuff, we'll talk more about agents. That's where the future is headed. And for all of us who are in the platform engineering world, that the abstraction at which we work as architects and problem solvers, rather than getting down in the weeds of the code, is where the future exists.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I can relate to it. The reason why I say that is, as a platform product manager in one of my previous roles, right? Like, it is tempting for the individual business teams to say like, hey, why is it taking so long to ship an experience that's centralized? Yeah.
Yep.
But the nuances around like region expansion, accessibility, and so many other things, I now realize that it was definitely worth it, actually, because boom, the day came when multiple products could be onboarded on the same or similar timelines, right? So that actually tends to what do you call get an acceleration with AI, right? Like that's what I believe you're clearly articulating there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The more curated set of things. Would you like to add a little bit more, Sanjeev, or are you good?
Yeah, and I think, as we say, as we were talking about earlier, right, the use of AI on the infrastructure side is still lagging behind the use of AI on the coding side, right? I mean, the coding assistants, the co-pilots, the Codiums and the Windsurfs and the cursors of the world are now like a couple of years old. People have become familiar with them. Of course, they have evolved really fast. But what has happened there, right? I mean, there are studies which say that if somebody is extremely familiar with a very large code base, they actually the AI assistant will slow you down, right? But in the long run, it is still, I will still, as an experienced developer, I still want to use AI to do the grunt work for me. I wanted to set up templates for me. I wanted to set up, all the bootstraps for me. I want it to debug for me, right? So, the AI handles things which are routine tasks, the generation of the basic code, managing drift, fixing defects, compliance checking, right? I mean, I might make a typo and flip a character in a variable name. AI never does that, right? But at the same time, AI hallucinates. So my job is to make sure the hallucinations are not happening, and we are prompting properly, we're setting the proper context, feeding it the right code. Now that's all happening and has become mature or not fully mature on the coding side. What we are seeing, and with StackGen is we have seen that's going to happen on the infrastructure as code side, right? We won't need to go and handcraft code anymore. The AI will do that for us, but we'll be still the ones as the humans in the loop, making the architectural decisions as to how to handle the complexity and the variance in our infrastructure profile. When problems happen, when outages happen, yeah, sure, AI can help us go through the logs and do tracing and do incident RCA to figure out. But at the same time, the more complex the environment, it is still humans who will have to do the problem solving, interpreting policies, right? If you're in a bank and you're looking at the FFIEC guidelines on how to do cloud security and cloud compliance, that language can be very difficult to interpret. I know, because I've read all the FFIEC handbooks, and interpreting that and figuring out how we are going to convert it to policies inside the organization and put those guardrails on our infrastructure is obviously up to humans also. So I think the evolution of the role is happening, already happening on the coding side, and now it's beginning to happen on the infrastructure side.
Awesome. I'll without delaying further, I'll get into the StackGen explorations and some of the capabilities.
People are eager to know. We've been talking about it. What are we talking about here?
Exactly, right? Like so. A quick framework here on how we see things from a solutioning perspective at StackGen. Yeah. I'm going to be a little bit faster here and go to the demo sooner. Okay. So on the left here, there are all these manual workflows, right? Like on the Terraform side, initialization, planning, apply, and CI/CD pipeline integration. Yeah. We believe in injecting AI in specific steps of the way. On the left here, you see this example of an AI workflow wherein draft configurations are having a need to accelerate. What does it mean? Like, can somebody write a Terraform code with the help of AI? Absolutely yes. But can it actually do or go ahead to production without human approval? Absolutely no, right? Like, those are kind of the opinionated paths we are creating at StackGen, and that's on the workflow side, right? Like, how do you infuse AI in each step of the way? On the other spectrum, we call it the spectrum, right? Like, there are some tasks which definitely need human in the loop, like coding. There are other tasks which can be independently done by AI, where human can be more of an end reviewer, right? Like, one example is drift detection. Yeah. we have spoken with so many organizations, right? Like with our engagement StackGen, right? Drift is an important problem. But we're talking about like mature professionals between platform engineering and developer teams, and drift does happen sometimes, right? Like when there are practical what do you call reasons for it. Somebody had to like spin up an infrastructure for their local environment testing, and they had to make a few changes quickly for their architectural changes, right? So what does it mean? There is going to be drift, right? Like, but it needs an immediate remediation. If you are going to engage another human and distract him or her from their day-to-day important task of building another IAC, your productivity is going to slow down, right? Like that's where an agent which can independently work on drift detection and remediation would really help the organization, right? Like wherein the governing rules for that agent is fed ahead of time, right? Like, so we got to pick and choose where AI needs to be part of the workflow and where it can be agentic. Yeah, that's how we think about it. There are what do you call? There are various things that happen under the hood, all the way across building the contextual knowledge and run books that we enable jointly with the customers to make that a reality. Yeah. So I'll quickly go to this. Since we're sort of running lesser on time, I'll quickly go to this analogy here. I think it's super important to realize, right? Like agentic AI is definitely a key player in us realizing more value out of platform engineering practice, right? But if you ask, like, do we apply agentic AI on the surface, like how we show here, and is that enough? Absolutely no, right? Like you need to have just like this iceberg here. You only see a little bit shiny thing on the iceberg on the top, but it actually goes deep inside, right? Like so you need a what do you call a platform like StackGen, which is grounded in reality, which has knowledge layer all the way across Terraform state files and policies and infrastructure patterns, right? And not only that, also relies on deterministic tooling across the board, not only within Terraform, because Terraform is one part of the puzzle in terms of infrastructure management. There are these CI/CD pipelines, and in some cases, actual cloud provider data too, right? So you need a platform that goes deeper, like an iceberg, but still an agentic AI interface is relevant to achieve that productivity multiplier. Yeah. So that's sort of the mindset we had in our heads as we designed our experiences. So sharing that building block here. Okay. So.
Right, and I think on that note, right, this is also following the analog of code generation. Code generation has gone from your IDE plugin for code completion to fully agentic code generation, which produces better code, bug-free code, more deterministic solutions, and tested and compiled and built code for you by having agents, collaborate together and challenge each other. And what is unique about StackGen solution, where it's headed especially, is this, again, an agentic model to do that on the infrastructure side, which is absolutely brilliant and has to be the future, because that's where we're already seeing the coding side of the world go down that path and is now pretty further along with some of the new agentic solutions, like like we are seeing in the coding space.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjeev, for summarizing that in a more crisp way. All right, so I'll jump right into the solution. I know we spoke about the autonomy spectrum a lot, so I'm going to give a quick TLDR here. We actually have defined various levels based on what kind of AI integration a customer has appetite for at this point of time, and what is actually the state of the art, right? One could go all the way to full autonomy versus have like no AI integration. Obviously, we don't want that. We don't prescribe that to any of our customers unless what do you call? There are legit reasons. But where we are actually hitting the sweet spot is between level 2 and 3, right? Wherein customers want a lot of task automation for menial tasks, right? Like which doesn't require that much reasoning, or tasks which does need reasoning but has to be shared. The reasoning has to be shared between multiple teams, right? Like we all use ChatGPT, right? Like our Claude agents for our day-to-day lives. Think about it, right? Like would the prompts that you generate for your own personal use, it has to be shared across your team, because you're talking about solving it as a team together, right? Like so that's sort of the analogy I could think of here, right? Like so the reasoning has to be really orchestrated, and it needs to benefit the team overall, right? So having said that, I'll go to the examples here one at a time, which you will realize for yourselves, like whether it's in level 2 or level 3 or something more than that, right? Like so, the first one here, I'm going to play a demo video that we had recorded. It's more of a click through. I hope you all can see my screen. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So this is StackGen. I think it's a little bit blurred, so I'm going to use a different interface here. Sorry, my full screen mode had some issues, so the screen is still visible, yeah, Sanjeev? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here you're looking at StackBuilder Express here, wherein a user uploads an architecture diagram. Yeah. The AI agent analyzes the architecture diagram, in this case, a Lambda-based data processing workload, wherein you read from an S3 bucket and do process the data with Lambda functions, and basically generate results back to the S3 function, right? Like this needs IAC code as well, right? Like this architecture. So with StackGen's StackBuilder Express, a user can actually import the napkin diagram and get the IAC code out into a very what do you call, a topology that they can consume in a visual diagram like this, right? And not only that, we generate the IAC infrastructure as a code automatically, right, behind the scenes. And this combines AI for image processing and deterministic rule-based algorithms for generating the IAC, right? So this is one of the things that I want you all to think about, the iceberg analogy or the spectrum analogy, right? Like so, agents or AI is not used in a point blank way, right? Like so, it needs to combine agentic and determinism in a meaningful way to get this experience out, right? So once the IAC is generated, we showed in a topology canvas here, and then we also provide the baked-in compliance that a platform engineer can strategically choose and apply to this architecture, yeah, and IAC. It's all provided as part of StackGen's core workflow here. And as an outcome, they actually can create reusable application blueprint that can be used by their developers. We call it AppStack for infrastructure, right? Which includes the Terraform files and all the variables, and also the baked-in compliance that their developers who is actually needing infrastructure can directly use. That's sort of the starting point interface that we have built for you all, leveraging a combination of AI, LLMs specifically, and deterministic rule-based algorithms. Yeah. That's use case number one. And the way to think about it is like, you start with intent. In this example, I shared like a data processing workload with Lambda, but it could be anything in AWS or GCP or Azure or other providers, right? It could be something like as simple as I want to build a web workload. And you get that holistic experience between the developers and the platform engineers. Yep. So having said that, I'll go to the next demo here. Jared, or would you help with enabling the voice version of this
A
video?
developer deep in flow, crafting elegant functions and bringing his application to life. Everything's clicking until a Terraform error brings everything to a grinding halt. Hours of momentum lost. He gets past the Terraform error only to find everything is out of compliance. There has got to be another way. Meanwhile, across the organization, the platform team has discovered that better way. They're using StackGen to revolutionize how infrastructure as code gets built and shared. It starts with the module editor, turning infrastructure into reusable, cataloged components. No more reinventing the wheel. Every module becomes a building block for the future. Next, they create resource packs, intelligent templates that capture common architecture patterns, the knowledge of senior engineers codified and ready to use. With this foundation, creating an app stack becomes lightning fast. Every configuration follows best practices automatically. Compliance isn't an afterthought, it's built in from day one. Back in his IDE, James discovers the StackGen MCP. Instead of wrestling with Terraform configurations, he simply asks for an app stack that matches his needs. In seconds, he gets detailed recommendations, not generic templates, but infrastructure specifically designed for his use case, backed by his organization's proven patterns. One command later, the app stack downloads directly into his Terraform folder. Whether he needs AWS, GCP, or multi-cloud configurations, StackGen delivers the right Terraform for his target platform. James is back to what he does best, building amazing applications. But StackGen doesn't stop at creation. The platform team uses the same MCP interface to maintain oversight and ensure continued compliance. When infrastructure changes happen, whether intentional or accidental, the team can instantly detect drift and maintain the integrity of their infrastructure standards. No surprises, no compliance violations, just infrastructure that works as designed. Combining StackGen and an AI assistant through an MCP integration means we can discover details about your infrastructure in ways that were hard to pull off in the past. Let's list all of our app stacks and organize them by purpose and function. Let's drill in deeper to understand more about a given app stack. Let's find out more about app stack dependencies. StackGen, where developer velocity meets platform reliability. Infrastructure as code, evolved.
All right. Yeah. So I think TLDR, we want to meet both the platform engineers and the developers wherever they are, right? Like on the platform engineering side, with the coding assistant, as well as visual team level clarity, right, in terms of architecture diagrams and updating app stacks. On the developer side, they are glued to CLI and coding assistants. We want to meet them where they are with our MCP server-based interfaces, right? We are pretty much the early players in the market who are actually doing this in the infrastructure space, right? Like, so giving that ease of use for developers and enabling velocity is super important for us as well. So Sanjeev, what do you think? Do you think
this is a platform engineer's dream, right? I mean, I think Brijesh has asked a question about what happens as a code enhancement, right? Well, in the traditional world, right, the world I've been working in for the last decade, right? When the developer creates makes a code enhancement for a new capability, and that requires an application app stack change to happen, they need to open a ticket, right? And then they need to wait for the workflow to happen, for somebody to pick up that Jira ticket, and and then somebody to actually, an engineer to actually understand the configuration changes needed, make the changes to the Terraform, hopefully they're doing GitOps, right? And maybe they're not. So there is a pull request, or maybe there's not a pull request to make that change, and then eventually gets deployed. And if you're in a cloud, then yes, it's a push button deployment. But if you're in a physical data center, that might actually require a service node ticket to be opened, so somebody can run down the, into the data center and make, physically log into the system and make a change. And I worked in environments where, if a networking change was needed, that required somebody actually going to the switch and the router and making a change. So here, it's the developer working from the IDE, not leaving the IDE or CLI, whichever the preferred mode is, talking to the StackGen MCP server, not having to make a ticket. Sure, there might be an app stack which is brand new, which doesn't exist today. Then they'll need to put the specifications, but all the approved app stacks are available to them. They can choose the one they want. They choose the one that works for them, whether it is for local or for production or for test. It is a collaboration at the true DevOps level, which we've been talking about for over a decade. So I'm just where was this 10 years ago, right? Where was this even 2 years ago? So I think this is a very interesting and exciting advancement on the infrastructure space and platform engineering space.
Awesome. Thank you for the encouraging words, and we are always what you call it, StackGen, really fascinated by the number of problems we could solve, and we have packaged it in an elegant way from an experience perspective, right? Like, not an easy problem to solve end of the day, but I think we have done a pretty good service to our personas, right? Like meeting them where they are. Yeah. So Jared, if you could switch back the control to my slide share, I'll continue my presentation. Awesome. Okay, so we to recap, we saw module editing and org level abstract management and meeting the developers through our MCP servers and whatnot, right? Like, but there is still one more actually opportunistic problem that we could solve with AI, right? Like, what is that? Which is going a little bit more agentic for tasks, which can be an overlay to Terraform, right? What I mean by an overlay task is we call it skills in our platform, right? Like skills like, hey, get me a documentation for any Terraform module that's being created, right? And not only what do you call update the Git repo, but also if anybody in the team wants a summary of the newly created Terraform documentation, send them an email, right? These are all menial tasks, which myself included, I have spent time in the past, right? Like within platform organizations. By the way, nothing wrong, right? Like we do whatever it takes to move the business, right? Like, but there is an opportunity to offload some of these tasks to agentic AI, right? Like that's where we are bringing in Aiden. Aiden stands for AI DevOps Engineer. Not to worry, Aiden cannot take our jobs or do like what do you call. Aiden is not what do you call. Aiden can solve hard problems, but like Sanjeev clearly articulated, right? The strategic thinking is still required from the humans. So Aiden is there to assist us in an individual agentic workflow way. Yeah. So how does Aiden really plug into the system here, right? Like we saw the whole MCP client and MCP server to meet the developers where they are, but Aiden can also tune into StackGen's core workflow around Terraform editing and the module cataloging and deployment runs and logging and whatnot, right? In addition to that, Aiden can also tune into the cloud providers themselves, right? Like which already which is the place where your infrastructure is being deployed, right? Like so, it has a view, an eye, and ear to AWS, Azure, GCP, and Git, right? Like so, you can actually build skills that are automatable, which you want to hand off to another DevOps engineer, which is Aiden here, and see value at scale, right? Like I'll give a couple of teaser examples here, right? Like Aiden as a documentation for Terraform. What do you do as a platform engineer? You go ahead and create a skill using natural language within Aiden. And then you can actually set up tasks for the rest of your organization and how they consume that skill, in this case, a documentation, right? Like for any newly created Terraform modules through our module editor, right? So that's basically Aiden in a nutshell. I'll quickly show a small sneak peek of the interface here. Yeah, so here I'm creating a skill for Aiden to generate documentation. I'm saving it here, and then I can pick and choose expertise among so many other choices and integrations we have with Aiden, right? And I choose Git in this case, and Aiden is able to actually go and read from a Git repo the specific Terraform modules which I had asked Aiden to review and generate documentation. And Aiden can actually render it to me, right? In the natural language prompt, wherein any other, be it platform engineer or developer, can use Aiden through an interface, because we are talking about shared responsibility model here for things like documentation. So it's important for Aiden to serve both these personas. And the good news, Aiden is offered within the same platform, StackGen, which has which means that all your users are streamlined from a governance perspective, right? Like an RBAC perspective, who gets to see what knowledge and what information is all controlled as platform engineers. Yeah. So that's Aiden with a real world use case. I'll add one more quick use case here. In this case, we are talking about a compliance dashboard, which is something that we offer on a web UI, but our customers actually prefer it to be accessible via natural language prompting as well, right? So I created a skill here for Aiden to actually go over and summarize all the compliance violations from StackGen, right? It actually runs through it and specifically picks up the violations across various compliance like MARC and HIPAA and whatnot, right? Like which are found within the individual abstracts. And I'm as an end user going over these individual items here to basically resolve it eventually, right? Like that's sort of the human language interface that Aiden provides as well. Yeah. Again, no rocket science here. Super, what do you call, day-to-day tasks that we spend a lot of time like figuring out where is that dashboard, where this data exists. But Aiden can be that meaningful DevOps engineer who can quickly go to these individual integrations and get you the outcome or answers, right?
Yeah, I think this is a great example of how tools like Aiden are going to help us reduce toil. Because this is toil, trying to figure out where the data is, trying to, grok the data and figure out what the problem is, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather solve the problem than spend time trying to understand the problem. And this is where, especially if you have a very large deployment where there is a lot of variance, a lot of chance, complexity, something like Aiden, every time we don't have to go and do some data analysis and build a custom dashboard, Aiden will just answer the question for us. It will also help with the business users or more non-technical users who are not familiar with the infrastructure to be able to give them answers, because they might not know what to look for, but they can ask in plain English, plain natural language, right? Aiden, what they're looking for, and it'll provide it for them. They'll still need an engineer to go fix the problem, but at least they can understand what the challenge is. So I think this is going to be the sidekick for each and every one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Platform engineers definitely deserve a sidekick, right? Like, one field insight we are seeing is organically the adoption has grown, right? As more and more users have tried Aiden, right? Like so again, it's hard to over-rotate on the use case right at one go, but as you use within your organizations, you'll figure out more, right? All right. So we'll quickly go to the future. We spoke a lot about specifically around the build and govern today, right, in our use cases. with StackGen, we are also thinking about the third and fourth pillars, right? Like healing and optimizing. Yeah. Again, we are picking up the two most important acute problems in the industry where automation can help. But heal and optimize is something in our radar for the future, wherein we believe as platform engineers, day two operations are also important. And we definitely can share our depth in both deterministic automation as well as agentic AI into the healing and optimizing phase of things as well, right? Like all the way from root cause analysis to performance tuning or cost optimization, right? Not new problems, it's just the user experience and what do you call the scale at which we can solve is much more higher now since we do have the agentic capabilities. Yeah, that's our future. And a quick rundown on the overall platform architecture. It basically shouldn't be a surprise to most of you who all are technical. And you saw the use cases that is cutting across what do you call agentic AI to rules-based automation to visual builder to what do you call integrations across multiple clouds. And we do support, by the way, the most important thing to keep in mind is we do want to meet our both our platform engineers and developers where they are. So we do support both greenfield, which is, hey, I'm a customer who's spinning up cloud infrastructure with Terraform only recently, right? Or we are a customer of Terraform for about 10 years now. We are a large financial institution. We want to re-architect things depending on how big we have grown from a platform engineering practice, right? Like we have practitioners for networking, we have practitioners for storage and compute and whatnot, right? We can actually offer both, right? Like for greenfield and brownfield, right? Like that's our user experience. And we have our foundation layer is a very well curated set of building blocks, right? Like from Terraform modules to abstracts to performing cloud asset discovery. And we have put it all together in a holistic experience with StackGen, right? We'll continue doing that. And this ecosystem is pretty rich. Many of the integrations are already our partners, and we continue to work closely with them and push forward for even more tighter integrations with them. Yeah. That's how we are seeing the future as. Anything that you would like to add, Sanjeev, before we get into questions from the audience in the chat?
Yeah, I think this is a beginning of a very interesting journey, right? I've been following all of us have been following AI and how it's gone from a simple chat GPT instance to so many complex tools which we are seeing now, right? I mean, AI, of course, has been around for a while. There have been some very complex solutions, but in this natural language, post-chat GPT world, right, where we are using LLMs and now agents to help us solve problems, I think what is laid out here as the StackGen platform architecture, right, the vision there, what's coming with agents, what's coming with multiple agents which are able to do things like RCA, which there's a question about. Because yes, if you have agents which have the ability to go and analyze across the entire stack and across all the technologies and tools that you are using, it'll absolutely be able to do the RCA. If it doesn't have the data, it cannot do an RCA, right? And you will not. This is not one agent which will do it. It will be a group of agents collaborating together, challenging each other, to make sure it can then analyze the problem and do some analysis. And obviously the future after that would be, can it fix it also, right, without requiring the humans to rewrite the code, but of course with human in the loop. So I think this is the beginning of a very exciting journey for all of us who've been in the infrastructure world. It'll make life easier for developers who are still able to move much faster than infrastructure can. And obviously this is the future of for platform engineering, right? This is the platform of the future, which is fully AI enabled and AI aided and AI enhanced. So I think it's a beginning of a very exciting journey. Much more to come, as you said. Most of it is coming, but it's a beginning of a very interesting journey, and I'm glad to see StackGen take the lead here.
Awesome. Thank you, Sanjeev. And I saw a couple of questions on how do we do EKS upgrades and whatnot. We definitely would want you all to try the more use cases. Again, I just showed a few use cases so that you get the point across in terms of our rich capabilities. You are free to try the initial or early adopter version that is available and create an account and try the product by yourself, right? In terms of both image to infra or the module editing capability, or even Aiden, right? Like how do you use it for EKS upgrades, or how do you use it for cost summarization and whatnot, right? Like strongly encourage the audience to try that, right? Like based on the questions that I'm hearing here. Yeah, I think we are right on time. So I had what do you call great joy in joining Sanjeev and meeting you all, and we look forward to working with you all together. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dharani and Sanjeev. I want to also thank all of you for joining us through today's session. Just a couple of quick reminders. This session was recorded. It will be available on demand, and we are going to send you a link to your inbox shortly after we conclude. But before we do finalize our closeout, I want to remind you as well, we've got a survey in the resource section. If you can take that, it helps out the StackGen. It helps me out here at TechStrong. It's what surveys are for. It's meant to help everyone out. It's 4 quick questions. Take that before we sign out here today and help us out. Once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.